Okay, so we are going to start our discussion about imaginary roots, okay, or imaginary numbers. So this all has to tie into quadratics. So I decided to teach this first. Anyways, so there are two important things that you need to know about imaginary numbers. Okay. You need to know that imaginary numbers, if you say something is imaginary, it sticks to the real number like glue, okay? They go together. And you need to know that I squared, if you ever come across an I squared, that means you can replace I squared with -1. That is what I squared equals. So if you see an I squared, you're going to change it to -1. Basically, if you see a negative underneath a square root, that means it's going to equal I. You guys, I want to make sure that your eyes have a little loop around, like a little curve around them, because that means that they're imaginary. There is a reason why we do not use I as a variable, because if you see I, it usually means it's an imaginary number. So we have 7 examples that I'm going to do with you today, okay? And we're going to work our way to where I need you to be. So example 1. It's going to take us back to kind of what we were doing the last 2 days, where we were simplifying the radicals. We're going to use the same process that we were using, except now we're going to have a negative in them. So when you have the square root of -18, we're going to break it up into 2 square roots. We're going to break it up into the square root of -1 times the square root of 18. So -1 times 18 equals -18. So again, anytime you see a negative, right, you're going to break it up into a square root of -1. That's the first thing. Now we're going to take care of the square root of -1. As soon as you see the square root of -1, you should say, oh, that is an imaginary number, so I'm going to write I. So I broke it up. I wrote the square root of -1. As soon as I saw the -1, I changed it to I. Now, what are 2 numbers you can multiply to get 18? 3 and 6. Okay. 2 and 9. Does it matter which 2 numbers you start with? Nope. Which one am I going to circle? 3 means we're circling it because it means it only has 2 factors, 1 in itself. What are 2 numbers you can multiply to get 6?
2 and 3.
And I will circle both of those. Now, do I have a pair of something?
Yes.
What do I have a pair of?
3.
Okay. So I'm going to put that there. And then what do I do with that 2? Yep, we're going to leave it in the square root. So you guys, remember we're looking for pairs. We only care about the numbers that we circled. Anything else doesn't mean anything to us. We're just looking at those circled numbers. Okay, now you never write your imaginary number first. You always write it behind. So what we're going to do is we're going to write 3i square root of 2, and that's going to be our final answer. What that means is